On our wedding day, I overheard my fiancée laughing with her friends. Imagine if my ex just barged in and took me away, like in the movies. They all giggled. I just stood there in silence. An hour later, she learned how this movie really ends. My wedding day was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. And in a weird, twisted way, it was. It was the day I finally saw everything with perfect clarity. It was the day I dodged a bullet the size of a cannonball, and it was the day I got to be the director of the movie my fiancée had always dreamed of starring in. She just didn't like the ending I wrote. Let's get this out of the way. My name is Ethan. I'm 35. My fiancée Megan was 29. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 1. On the surface, everything was perfect. I have a good job, we lived in a nice house that I owned, and I gave her the life she always said she wanted. But for the last year, something had been eating at me. It was her obsession with her ex-boyfriend, a guy named Kyle. He was the ghost in every room. The guy she'd compare me to, usually in subtle ways. Kyle loved this song. Kyle and I used to come here all the time. I'm not a jealous guy, but I'm not a moron either. I knew she wasn't over him. I tried talking to her about it, and she'd just laugh it off, call me paranoid, and tell me that what they had was ancient history. But her eyes would tell a different story. I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't like games. About 6 months before the wedding, I sat her down and laid it on the line. I told her the constant mentions of Kyle were disrespectful, and that if she wasn't fully committed to a future with me, we needed to call it quits. She put on a big show, cried a little, and swore that I was the only one she wanted. She promised to stop bringing him up, to cut him out of our lives for good. For a while, she actually did. I let myself believe that we had turned a corner. I was a fool. Fast forward to our wedding day, last Saturday. The venue was a beautiful old country estate we'd rented for the weekend. I was in my tux, feeling nervous but excited. The ceremony was in an hour. I was walking from my suite to find my best man when I passed the bridal suite, where Megan was getting ready with her bridesmaids. The door was cracked open just enough for me to hear them laughing. I heard her best friend Sarah say, "You seem so calm. Aren't you nervous at all?" And then I heard Megan's voice, giddy and light. "Please, the only thing that would make me nervous is if Kyle was here." They all giggled. Then Megan said the words that would change everything. Can you even imagine though? Like, what if he just barged in right before I said I do and took me away, like in the movies? That would be so romantic. More giggling. Sarah replied, "Oh my God, you'd totally leave with him, wouldn't you?" And Megan's response was a dreamy sigh. In a heartbeat. I just stood there in the hallway, completely frozen. The world went silent. It wasn't just a joke. It was her deepest, most honest desire, shared with her friends on the day she was supposed to commit her life to me. In a heartbeat. The hurt was a flash, a white, hot pain that lasted about 3 seconds. Then it was gone, replaced by a cold, hard calm. This wasn't a surprise. This was a confirmation of everything my gut had been telling me for a year. The wedding I had paid a fortune for. The future I had planned, it was all a sham. She wasn't marrying me. She was settling for me. I didn't storm in there. I didn't yell. I just turned around and walked back to my suite. My mind was already working, the gears turning with a cold, clear purpose. She wanted a movie. Fine. I was about to give her the blockbuster of a lifetime. Update 1. When I got back to my suite, my best man, my brother, Liam, was there. He saw the look on my face and knew something was wrong. "What's up?" he asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I said. I just heard the truth. I told him what I'd overheard. He wasn't surprised. He had never liked Megan, always said there was something fake about her. He just listened, his jaw getting tighter and tighter. When I was done, he just shook his head. "So what are you gonna do?" he asked. "Are you calling it off?" "Oh, I'm calling it off," I said, pulling out my phone. "But I'm not just going to cancel it. She wants a movie. She's going to get one. I need a favor. I need Kyle's number." Liam knew a guy who knew a guy. It was a long shot, but 5 minutes later, a number popped up on his phone. Kyle's number. My next step was crucial. I had bought a burner phone a few months back, a cheap little thing I kept in my car for emergencies. This was an emergency. I grabbed it from my glove compartment. I knew I couldn't just text Kyle from my number. I had to be clever. I needed to sound like one of her desperate bridesmaids. I composed the text carefully. Kyle, this is Sarah, Megan's friend. You have to get here. Now. Megan is freaking out. She's in the bridal suite, crying her eyes out, saying she can't go through with it. She keeps saying she should be with you. If you ever loved her, you need to come and get her before she makes the biggest mistake of her life. The ceremony is in less than an hour. Don't text back, just come. It was a good story, but I needed a hook, something to make it undeniable. I added one more line. She's wearing the locket you gave her, the one with the picture of you two. She said she couldn't take it off. It was a complete lie, but a plausible one. He had given her a locket years ago that she used to wear constantly. She still kept it in her jewelry box. I was betting he wouldn't remember if he'd ever gotten it back. I hit send. Then I put the burner phone on silent and slipped it into my pocket. What now? Liam asked. Now, I said, straightening my tie, we go get married. The next hour was surreal. I went through the motions. I took pictures with my groomsmen. I talked to my parents, telling them how happy I was. I was an actor playing the part of a lifetime. The ceremony began. The music swelled. The guests were all seated in the beautiful garden where the altar was set up. I stood at the front with the officiant, watching the procession. The groomsmen, the bridesmaids, including Sarah, who couldn't even look me in the eye. Then came Megan. She was stunning. A perfect bride walking towards a man she didn't love, her head filled with fantasies of another. She glided down the aisle on her father's arm, a radiant smile on her face. As she reached me, her father placed her hand in mine. She squeezed it, a perfect picture of bridal joy. And just as the officiant opened his book to begin, a commotion started at the back of the garden. Heads turned. A man was striding up the aisle, his face a mixture of confusion and determination. It was Kyle. He was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, looking completely out of place. He walked right up to the altar. The guests were gasping. Megan's face went white. Then, for a split second, I saw it. A flicker of something wild and excited in her eyes. Her fantasy was coming true. Megan? Kyle said, his voice shaky. Sarah texted me. She said you were waiting for me? Megan just stared at him, speechless. Her mother was about to stand up and scream. Her father looked like he was going to have a heart attack. Before anyone could say another word, I stepped forward. I took the microphone from the officiant's hand. It's okay, everyone, I said, my voice calm and clear, booming through the speakers. Please don't be alarmed, I can explain. I turned to Kyle. Kyle, thank you for coming. You've got great timing. You see, an hour ago, my fiancée here was telling her friends that her ultimate fantasy was for you to barge into our wedding and take her away. I overheard her, and you know, I'm a romantic. I believe in making dreams come true, so I sent you that text, from Sarah. I looked at Sarah, the bridesmaid. She looked like she was going to faint. I looked back at Megan, whose face had gone from shock to horrified as the reality of the situation crashed down on her. So go ahead, man, I said to Kyle, gesturing to Megan. She's all yours. Her fantasy is now your reality. Good luck with that. Then I turned to the stunned crowd of guests. Folks, I apologize. It appears there won't be a wedding today. Megan has made her choice. But the good news is, everything is paid for. The bar is open, the band is ready to play, and there is a mountain of food. So I invite you all to join me in celebrating my incredible escape from a lifetime of disrespect. Let's party. I dropped the microphone. I walked over to my parents, who were looking at me with a mixture of shock and pride. I hugged my mom. Then I walked straight to the open bar, ordered a double whiskey, and watched the chaos unfold. Update 2. The scene at the altar was pure, unadulterated chaos. Megan was frozen, her face a mask of horror. Kyle looked like a deer in the headlights, realizing he had just walked into the most elaborate and humiliating trap of his life. Megan's father was screaming at him. Her mother was wailing. I just stood at the bar, sipping my whiskey, watching it all unfold. My family and friends, after a moment of stunned silence, started clapping. Liam came over, slapped me on the back, and ordered a drink. My party had officially begun. Megan's family, of course, imploded. Her father, a man who was all about appearances, tried to salvage the situation. He was yelling at Kyle to leave, trying to get Megan to come to her senses. But it was too late. The damage was done. The story was already spreading through the guests like wildfire. Kyle, to his credit, just turned and walked away. He didn't say another word. He just booked it out of there, leaving Megan standing alone at the altar. Her movie fantasy hero had just abandoned her on the set. Megan, supported by her hysterical bridesmaids, was eventually led away into a side room. Her family followed, and a screaming match erupted that could be heard all the way across the garden. A few of her family's guests, the ones who were clearly there out of obligation, made a quiet exit. But most of the guests, my family, my friends, and a surprising number of our mutual acquaintances, stayed. And it turned into the best party I have ever been to. The band, after a brief, confused huddle, started playing upbeat rock and roll instead of cheesy wedding ballads. The bar was mobbed. People were coming up to me all night, shaking my hand, telling me it was the most legendary thing they had ever seen. My Dodged a Bullet party was a massive hit. The financial side of things was a mess, but a mess I had prepared for. The wedding cost a little over $100,000. I had paid for about 70% of it. Her parents had contributed the other 30%. All the contracts were in my name. The deposits were non-refundable. The day after the wedding, my phone was a war zone. Hundreds of texts and missed calls. Voicemails from Megan, alternating between sobbing apologies and furious threats. Voicemails from her father, promising to sue me for every penny I had for publicly humiliating his daughter. I responded to none of them. I had my lawyer handle it. He sent a single, simple letter to Megan's father. It stated that I considered the $30,000 they had contributed to be a gift towards a wedding that their daughter had unilaterally chosen not to participate in. It also included a formal invoice for her half of the non-refundable deposits that I had paid for, totaling a neat $35,000. The letter concluded by saying that if he wished to pursue legal action for humiliation, I would be more than happy to countersue for that amount, and that I would also be happy to subpoena the bridesmaids to testify under oath about the conversation I had overheard. The legal threats stopped immediately. The social fallout was even more devastating for her. The story of what happened at the wedding became a local legend. Everyone had a different version, but they all had the same ending: Megan, the fantasist, getting exactly what she wished for, and it blowing up in her face. Her reputation was in tatters. Kyle, the ex, also faced his own consequences. It turned out he had a serious girlfriend, a woman he had been with for over a year. She was not, to put it mildly, happy about him showing up to another woman's wedding to take her away. She dumped him publicly and spectacularly on social media. His romantic movie moment had cost him his actual relationship. About a week after the wedding, Megan showed up at my house. I was in the front yard doing some landscaping. She got out of her car, looking tired and broken. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't," I replied, not even looking up from the flower bed I was weeding. "Please, Ethan," she begged, her voice cracking. "I made a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. It was just a silly fantasy, a joke. It didn't mean anything." "It meant everything," I said, finally looking at her. "It meant that on the day you were supposed to commit to me, you were dreaming of someone else. It meant that our entire relationship was a lie." "It wasn't a lie," she cried. "I do love you. I was just scared. You ruined everything. You humiliated me in front of everyone I know." "I didn't humiliate you, Megan," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I gave you what you wanted. You wanted a movie. You wanted your ex to show up. I was just the director who made it happen. You're the one who wrote the script. The only problem is, you didn't like the ending. That's not my problem." "But what am I supposed to do now?" she wailed. "My life is a mess." "I don't know," I said, turning back to my garden. "Maybe you should go write another movie. Just leave me out of the cast this time." I never spoke to her again. Final update. It's been 6 months. The dust has finally settled. The divorce was uncontested. My lawyer informed hers that any attempt to claim assets would be met with the aforementioned lawsuit and subpoenas, and she signed the papers without a fight. Her parents, in a move that surprised me, actually sent me a check for the $35,000. It came with a short, typed note from her father that simply said, "For the damages." I think it was his way of admitting his daughter was in the wrong. Megan's life, from what I've heard through the grapevine, is a wreck. She had to move back in with her parents. Her friends, including the giggling bridesmaids, abandoned her. Apparently, being the star of the most humiliating wedding story of the year makes you a social pariah. She had to get a normal job, working in retail. The life of glamour and drama she thought she was entitled to is gone. Kyle is still single. His reputation as a home-wrecking idiot has apparently been hard to shake. I almost feel bad for him. Almost. As for me, life is good. I sold the big house. It had too many bad memories. I bought a smaller place, just for me. The $100,000 I spent on that wedding, I don't even see it as a loss. I see it as the price I paid for my freedom. It was the most expensive and most valuable lesson of my life. I'm dating again, someone quiet and kind and real. Someone who thinks my life is interesting, not boring. Someone who would never ever joke about leaving me for someone else. The ultimate revenge wasn't the public spectacle. It was simply taking her at her word. She told me and her friends what she really wanted. I just facilitated it. I gave her the movie-perfect moment she always dreamed of. And, just like in the movies, she now has to live with the consequences of her choices, forever. The credits have rolled and she didn't get the happy ending she was expecting. I, on the other hand, did. On Valentine's Day, my girlfriend texted, "Going to dinner with the girls instead, we'll do something tomorrow." I replied, "Of course." Then I posted a video of me donating the jewelry I bought to a shelter. The internet loved it, until she saw it. I'm not the kind of guy who makes a big deal out of Valentine's Day. To me, it's a Tuesday. But my girlfriend of 3 years, Jessica, was the opposite. For her, Valentine's Day was the Super Bowl of relationships. A day for grand gestures, expensive gifts, and most importantly, a public performance of affection for her social media followers. I played along because it made her happy, and I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. This year, I had gone all out. I'd made a reservation a month in advance at one of the best restaurants in the city. I'd ordered a ridiculous amount of flowers to be delivered to her office. And on my desk, in a sleek, dark blue box, sat a diamond necklace that had cost me more than my first car. I was ready to play my part in the grand theater of her Valentine's Day. At around noon on the day itself, while I was in the middle of a client meeting, my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. "Hey babe, so sorry to do this, but the girls are having a total meltdown about their boyfriends. We've decided to do an emergency Galentine's dinner tonight instead. I feel terrible, but they really need me. We'll do something tomorrow, I promise. Love you." I stared at the text for a full minute, the words blurring together. It wasn't the cancellation that hit me. It was the casual, almost breezy way she did it. The complete disregard for my time, for the plans I had made. The assumption that I would just be there tomorrow, waiting patiently. And the phrase, "emergency Galentine's dinner." I knew her friends. The only emergency they ever had was a sale at their favorite boutique. I'm a patient man. I'm a financial analyst. My entire life is about observing patterns, and I had been observing a pattern with Jessica for months. The increasing sense of entitlement, the way she would talk about her friends' expensive gifts with a pointed, jealous tone, the subtle but constant digs about my boring job and my lack of spontaneity. This text wasn't an anomaly. It was the final data point in a very clear trend line. I typed back a simple 2-word reply, "Of course." Then I put my phone down, excused myself from my meeting, and walked back to my office. I sat at my desk and looked at the blue jewelry box. $5,000 of compressed carbon, meant to be a symbol of my affection for a woman who had just traded it for a gossip session with her friends. A profound sense of clarity washed over me. The relationship wasn't just failing, it was a bad investment, and it was time to cut my losses. But I wasn't just going to walk away. She had made a public spectacle of her disregard for me. I was going to make a public spectacle of my newfound freedom, and I was going to use her own weapon, the court of public opinion, to do it. Update 1. The first part of my plan was simple. I called the restaurant and canceled our reservation. I called the florist and had them redirect the flowers, not to my home, but to the front desk of the nearest children's hospital. Then I took the jewelry box and left my office for the day. My destination was a place called The Haven, a well-known and highly respected women's shelter on the other side of town. It was a place for women and their children who were escaping abusive situations, a place that ran on donations and goodwill. I walked in and asked to speak to the director. a kind-faced, no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Margaret. I introduced myself and explained why I was there. I told her I had a Valentine's Day gift that was no longer needed by its intended recipient, and that I wanted to donate it to the shelter. I told her they could use it however they saw fit, raffle it off at their next fundraiser, give it to a woman who was starting a new life with nothing. Margaret was taken aback. She opened the box, her eyes widening at the sight of the necklace. "This is incredibly generous," she stammered. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said. Then I made my real move. I pulled out my phone. "Margaret," I said, "I know this is a strange request, but would you mind if I filmed this? I'm not going to show your face or the faces of any of the residents. I just want to say a few words. I think it might do some good." She was hesitant, but I explained my reasoning. I told her I wanted to use a moment of personal disappointment to create something positive, to encourage other people to think about giving back. She eventually agreed. I set up my phone on a small table, framing the shot so it was just me, Margaret's hands holding the open jewelry box, and the shelter's logo on the wall behind me. Then I hit record. I kept it short, simple, and sincere. I didn't mention Jessica by name. I didn't talk about being dumped. I just told the truth, framed in the best possible light. "Hi everyone," I began. "My name is Alex. Today is Valentine's Day, and like a lot of people, I had plans. I bought these flowers and this necklace for someone I care about very much. But life happens, and plans change, and I was left with a choice. I could be sad, or I could try to turn this into something good." I gestured to the necklace. This was supposed to be a symbol of love for one person, but now it's going to be a symbol of hope for many. I'm here at The Haven, a wonderful organization that helps women and children get back on their feet. I'm donating this to them, in the hopes that it can help them continue their incredible work. I looked directly into the camera. So if your Valentine's Day didn't go as planned today, I just want to say, you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, the best way to heal a broken heart is to help someone else mend theirs. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I stopped recording, thanked Margaret for her time, and left. I drove home, edited the video slightly to add the shelter's website and donation link, and then I posted it. Not on my personal page, but on a popular local news and events page on Facebook and on Twitter, with a few relevant hashtags, #Valentine's Day, Pay It Forward, and the name of our city. Then I turned off my phone, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and waited for the internet to do its work. It didn't take long. By the time I woke up the next morning, the video had exploded. It had been shared thousands of times. The local news page had made it their top story. My face was everywhere. The comments were a tidal wave of positive reinforcement. This is what a real man looks like. Someone's ex is crying in a corner right now. What a huge mistake she made. I just donated to The Haven in your name, Alex. Thank you for the inspiration. The story had a hero, me, a villain, the anonymous heartless ex, and a good cause. It was perfect viral catnip. By mid-morning, my phone was ringing off the hook with calls from local news stations wanting to do a story on the Valentine's Day angel. I politely declined all of them, saying I didn't want the attention. This, of course, only made me look more humble and heroic. The first contact from Jessica came around noon. It was a single baffled text. "My phone is blowing up. What did you do?" I didn't reply. An hour later, she called. I let it go to voicemail. The message she left was a masterpiece of cognitive dissonance. She was confused, angry, and utterly unable to process the fact that I had done something so significant without her permission. "Alex, what the hell is going on?" she said, her voice tight with suppressed rage. "My mom just called me, asking if we broke up. That video is everywhere. You donated my necklace, the one you bought for me. You had no right. Call me back right now." Her necklace, the one she had never seen, never touched, never even known about. The sense of ownership, the sheer, unadulterated entitlement, was breathtaking. I still didn't reply. I was waiting for her next move. I knew it wouldn't just be anger. It would be a full-scale public relations war, and I was ready for it. Update 2. The counter-offensive began that afternoon. Jessica, unable to get to me directly, took to the one battlefield she thought she could win on: social media. She posted a long, rambling story on her Instagram, complete with a tearful selfie. The story was a work of fiction. She claimed that we had a minor disagreement and that in a fit of toxic, manipulative rage, I had staged the entire donation video to publicly humiliate her and paint her as a villain. She said the necklace was a gift I had already given her and that I had stolen it back from her just to make my disgusting, self-serving video. Her friends, her loyal Greek chorus of enablers, immediately jumped into action. They shared her post, adding their own commentary. He's always been a controlling psycho. This is what she's been dealing with for years. This isn't charity, it's emotional abuse. Abuse. Don't fall for his act. She ditched him for one night to support her friends, and he does this? The man is a walking red flag. They tried to flip the script, to recast me as the villain and her as the victim. It was a good strategy, but it had one fatal flaw. It was built on a foundation of lies, and I had the receipts. I didn't engage with them directly. That would have been messy and would have just fed the drama. Instead, I waited for a local news blogger, a woman who had written a particularly glowing piece about my donation, to reach out to me for comment on Jessica's accusations. When she did, I replied with a calm, factual statement and 2 pieces of evidence. My statement was simple. I am saddened by these false accusations, but I am not surprised. My only intention was to turn a disappointing situation into a positive one for a worthy cause. The decision to end my relationship was made after I received a text message from my then-girlfriend on Valentine's Day, canceling our plans. As for the necklace, it was never in her possession. It was in mine until I gave it to the director of the Haven. The first attachment I sent the blogger was a screenshot of the time-stamped receipt for the necklace, which I had purchased on the morning of Valentine's Day. The second attachment was a screenshot of Jessica's text message to me, also from Valentine's Day, where she casually canceled our plans. The blogger updated her article within the hour. The new headline was scathing. Valentine's Day Angel's ex accuses him of theft. Receipts tell a different story. The article laid out the timeline side by side. My purchase of the necklace at 10 a.m., her cancellation text at noon. My donation at 3 p.m. It was a simple, undeniable chronology of facts that completely dismantled her narrative. The internet, which had been momentarily confused by her accusations, turned on her with a vengeance. Her Instagram comments became a dumpster fire of public ridicule. So you're mad because he donated a necklace you didn't even know existed after you blew him off on Valentine's Day? The entitlement is staggering. Girl, you didn't just fumble the bag, you threw it into a charitable furnace. This is a masterclass in how to turn yourself into the most hated person in the city in 24 hours. But I wasn't done. I had one more card to play. I had a suspicion that the emergency Galentine's dinner wasn't the full story. Her reaction had been too extreme, her lies too frantic. I hired a private investigator the same day I made the donation. I gave him the names of Jessica's friends and asked him to do one thing: find out where they really were on Valentine's night. It took him less than a day. He got credit card receipts and social media geotags. 2 of the friends were, in fact, together at a trendy new restaurant. But Jessica wasn't with them. She was at a completely different, much more intimate and expensive restaurant on the other side of town. And she wasn't alone. She was with her ex-boyfriend, a guy named Ben she had sworn was ancient history. The PI had a photo, taken by an associate in the restaurant. It was a picture of them holding hands across the table. I held on to that photo. It was my insurance policy, my ace in the hole. I was waiting for the right moment to play it. Final update. The final act of this drama was a slow, painful implosion of Jessica's entire life. After her public humiliation, she deleted her social media, but the damage was done. The story was too big, too juicy. She became a local pariah. Her friends, the ones who had so eagerly participated in her smear campaign, abandoned her. They didn't want to be associated with the scandal. They started telling people she had lied to them, that they had no idea she was really with her ex-boyfriend. Her job was the next to go. She worked in public relations, an industry where reputation is everything. Her company, facing a barrage of negative attention online, quietly let her go a few weeks after the story broke. She was now unemployed, friendless, and a social outcast. But the worst was yet to come. Her parents, who had initially been her staunchest defenders, were mortified. Their daughter had brought shame and ridicule upon their family name. The final straw, I heard, was when her father, a prominent local businessman, lost a major client because of the scandal. They gave her an ultimatum. She had to get a real job, start paying her own bills, and publicly apologize to me. She refused, still clinging to the tattered shreds of her victim narrative. So they kicked her out. She was now, for the first time in her life, completely on her own. She had no money, no job, and nowhere to go. Which is why, 2 months after that fateful Valentine's Day, she showed up at my door. It was late, almost midnight. She looked like a ghost of her former self. The confident, entitled woman I had known was gone, replaced by someone who looked tired, desperate, and broken. She started with the tears, the apologies, the frantic promises to change. She told me she had made a terrible mistake, that Ben meant nothing, that she loved me. I let her talk for a full 5 minutes. When she was done, I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my phone and showed her the picture of her and Ben, holding hands in the restaurant on Valentine's Day. Her face crumbled. The last of her lies had been stripped away, leaving only the ugly, undeniable truth. "I know everything, Jessica," I said, my voice quiet. "I've known since the beginning." She started begging then, a desperate, pathetic plea for a place to stay, for a little money to get back on her feet. I just shook my head. "You had a home," I said. "You had a man who loved you and provided for you, and you traded it all for a dinner with your ex. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it." I closed the door, leaving her standing on my porch. My revenge was never about the necklace. It was about showing her and the world the true value of things. She valued a momentary thrill over a lifetime of loyalty. I valued my self-respect over a relationship built on lies. And in the end, we both got exactly what we deserved.